Okay, I don't have a title for the talk today, though I'm somewhat following up to a conversation we had yesterday about talking about our meditative experience. In reflective meditation, this is not a new statement, but we've said over the years, we invite you to bring your life into your meditation so that your meditation will follow you into your life. And yesterday, while we had this conversation about speaking about our experience, the word that came to my mind was intimacy. And I wasn't really clear on why that word was there. Sometimes I just get kind of a shot of something and I roll it around in my mind and it stays with me the rest of the day. And I didn't want to go right to the dictionary. I wanted to think more about it myself, but I didn't get too far, so I went to the dictionary. And intimacy had a few different definitions. One is a private and cozy atmosphere, which I thought that is somewhat of what we're creating. And it talks about a close familiarity with people, with friendship, that there's a kind of closeness that develops in intimacy. Now, it also talked about sex, an intimate act, and we're not having sex with each other, so that's off the table. But there's a kind of intimacy in kindness and being vulnerable and, being seen and heard. And the last definition was what surprised me a little bit. It talks about the close observation of and knowledge of a subject or an object. And I went, oh, that is sati. That is paying attention, awareness. And how many roads lead us back to sati? This basic Buddhist teaching. It's a complex teaching. We talk about it a lot. We've translated sati as awareness or reflective awareness. But it could easily be attention or reflective attention or mindfulness or reflective mindfulness. But what seems to be important about sati is that it's both about being aware and present with our experience, as well as remembering and reflecting upon it. So there's these dual things going on within sati, which is a much more complex process. As we hear each other talk about our meditation sittings, it's very hard to just pick two things that you're doing. There's usually a lot more going on. But I made a hypothesis from this that practicing meditation is an art. And I remember saying this about my former profession as an acupuncturist. I was really insistent that traditional Chinese medicine could be practiced as an art, not just as a science, not just as a medicine. And what was I thinking the difference was? That's what I was questioning myself in this talk, in writing this talk. And I remember this distinct feeling of placing needles, choosing herbs, talking about lifestyle changes. It was an art that was developing alongside my study of the basic principles of Chinese medicine and the guidelines and values that came with that paradigm, with that practice. And over the years, I observed with my colleagues that we each had a very unique way of treating patients when they came in. And when that person's in front of you, you're not just relying on what you've studied. You're actually having to put it into practice, which I think is an art. So I'm taking this hypothesis, this observation to reflective meditation, that practicing it is an art form. And it's not an original thought, obviously. I recently read an article sent to me in a study group that gave me more language and permission to really talk about this as an idea. And it's appropriately titled, Attention is an Art Form. And it's by Adam Robert, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, and it's from something called the Base Camp. I think it's a Substack. Whatever a Substack is. I'm sorry, I forget. It's a whole thing where you put out your ideas. So I'm going to read something from that article. To say that attention is an art form, then, is to recognize that, like any art, it involves both technique and creativity, discipline and spontaneity. Just as an artist learns to see color relationships, or a musician develops an ear for harmony, the scholar contemplative cultivates modes of attention that bring new dimensions of experience into presence. This isn't simply about sustained focus, though that's part of it, but about developing the sensitivity and skill to let phenomenon show up in increasingly nuanced ways. So sati as a sensitivity and a skill, and then really honoring this sensitivity that develops in practice and bringing it into the various activities, different activities that we attend to over life, is the way something becomes an art. Is that if we lose that sensitivity and we lose the skill that comes from that, it becomes more robotic or more just something that's practiced without this nuance. And in my mind, having our practice be an art form makes it more of an intimate process. I think it directly challenges the idea that sati is some objective present moment state that we're trying to achieve or that we can replicate and just put ourselves in. And it really intimates that our subjective experience is part of everything we do. So it brings me back to the definition of intimacy, like this closeness of observation or knowledge of the subject. And in reflective meditation, the subject is our experience. This is what we're becoming intimate with, our experience. And it's an intimate process to pay close attention to our lives and become more knowledgeable about what matters to us. So letting meditation join the ranks of an art form rather than solely a task that we do for our mental health or for our sanity, though that we do that also, it can change our relationship to our meditative experience. So the other angle that I want to bring out about this is that the sitting that we're trying to express and talk about is sometimes like an emerging art piece. It is something that we don't know everything about. And sometimes it looks like us and feels like us, and other times it doesn't. So it has this sense of being ours and not ours and both of our and everything in between. And that there's no enduring artist within this picture. Though it may feel like we've created something, we can't really find the artist that's there all the time. And that it's often surprising when we talk about our experience and bring it out from the inner world. So I'm going to end with one other quote that I liked of his. Like any art form, attention requires practice, patience, and a willingness to remain open to what might emerge. The art lies in finding the right balance between active engagement and receptive openness, between the intention to understand and the capacity to be surprised. So thank you for listening.